after the Second World War, a lot of people got in engineers' cases and said that that kind of killing, the atomic bombs and the Holocaust, would not have been possible without modern technology. And this was proven wrong in Rwanda when in 1994, 1 million people were killed in 100 days by machete. In a country of 9 million people, that's pretty extensive devastation. And still today, 16 years later, the rural communities still lack the resources to address basic needs. Give you an example of the water quality situation. Won't go into the details here, but here's a clean, what's called a petrofilm plate that with clean water shows no bacterial growth. And here's a plate of a typical water sample for an orphanage there in Rwanda that has the bacterial load of raw sewage, and these kids are drinking it every day. One of the ways that we address this is through the development of our own technology called the Bring Your Own Water Treatment System. It's simple. It uses gravity-fed sand filters and gravel filters and then solar-powered ultraviolet disinfection system. It's kind of a combination of a small-scale point-of-use system and a large-scale municipal system. We're able to treat water for anywhere between 100 and 3,000 people a day, up to 50,000 liters. And it is designed to address the needs, the unique requirements in rural Rwanda. We heard earlier today about point-of-use systems. Those are absolutely terrific in communities where you have defined areas, you have a little bit of defined populations, you have a little bit of disposable income. In Rwanda, that's very difficult. It's so densely populated, everyone's living on top of each other, that it's hard to identify who your population is that you're serving. It's very mountainous. It's difficult to isolate a watershed, to protect, or to drill wells. And so as a result, we've implemented our community-scale treatment systems that are still as cheap or cheaper per liter to maintain and also as easily maintained by the local community. Social enterprise. Governments and nonprofits have sustainable development models that call for discrete projects. Funding is allocated either by raising money or by having an endowment or by a government grant for discrete projects. And the challenge is long-term maintenance of those projects is not often provided by the money. The motivation is to go off and do something new and different and better, show your donors the work you've done, and then present to them the next cool thing you're going to do. And as a result, over 80% of water projects in the developing world fail within 2 years. Within 2 years, 80% of projects fail. Over $2.3 trillion has been spent on foreign aid in the past 50 years, and there's very little evidence that it actually results in development, that is statistically correlated to development. So if it was already working, there wouldn't be that many poor people anymore, and there wouldn't be that many people with dirty water. But clearly, these interventions are not yet successful. There is not yet a scalable model. Social enterprise has at least some potential, at least worthy investigating, where you combine business sense, you unleash the market to do humanitarian work. And we can break the trend of funding not being tied to the implementation of the system, of the technologies, by ensuring that the revenue really does come from long-term operation and maintenance, and that you are motivated financially to maintain your systems. The way we are doing this, there are many ways to do it, and microfinance is, of course, one way, water credits another way. The way we are doing this is by combining it with the United Nations carbon credit market. The UN carbon market under the Clean Development Mechanism, which was created by the Kyoto Protocol, is $120 billion a year. And unfortunately, less than 3% of that market is in Africa, and you can see why. The vast majority of it goes to India and China and Brazil, where they already have an energy use. They already have dirty use of energy that can be cleaned up, putting in more efficient power plants or wind farms, and you can break in billions of dollars in carbon credits to pay for those systems. And yet, Africa is left literally in the dark. We intend to break that trend, be one of the several who are trying to break that trend by combining the $120 billion a year market with true sustainable development for the poorest people. One carbon credit, if you're not familiar with the market, represents 1 ton of carbon dioxide either not emitted or removed from the atmosphere. What we do when we put in our water treatment systems, each liter of water that we treat with our system is a liter of water that no longer should be boiled to gain a comparable public health advantage. And this should is kind of the key point here. Right now, people generally don't boil their water. They can't afford to. The wood is very scarce. It's very time-consuming and expensive. But they have a right to clean water, at least most of the people in this room think so, and most of the people in the world think so. and they have a right to the energy use that comes with that. And we are trying to break down these barriers at the Clean Development Mechanism to allow us to claim credits on that need for energy use. And we do that in partnership with our partners, the United Nations Development Program, MDG Carbon Facility. Adam Shepard is here with the MDG facility if you want to bring him some projects later. And they're working with us to directly combine addressing the Millennium Development Goals with the Kyoto market. We reduce the actual use of firewood. Some people do boil their water. They do treat it, so we reduce the actual use of firewood. But more importantly, we meet an energy need that currently isn't being met because of poverty. We work with the rural communities directly on training, on implementation, on maintenance, on even design, appropriateness of each system for the community. We also work with the national government, including President Paul Kagame. When we met with him a few years ago, he said, you know, I don't really have the resources to address these problems of energy and water in every village in Rwanda, but what can I do? And I explained to him that one of our challenges was the roads going up to these villages, to these communities, are very badly deteriorated. And so he turned to his Minister of Infrastructure, who was also at the meeting, you can probably guess who, and said, by the time they get back, I want that road fixed. And he turned back to me and he said, if that doesn't happen, we'll give you helicopters. I'm like, that sounds great. We will take the helicopters next time. And nobody else agreed with me. We are in the final stages of a registration for our Phase 1 program with the Clean Development Mechanism. We had a validator come out to Rwanda with us in January. We've also secured letters of intent from big social investment firms such as Acumen and Grey Ghost and Calvert. And all of our carbon credits are being purchased at fixed prices by the Swedish government. The market is volatile. The Kyoto Protocol expires at the end of 2012. We were supposed to have another treaty in place out of the Copenhagen meeting, and that clearly didn't happen. The next chance is in December in Mexico. But for us, we at least can ride out that storm a little bit for the short term because the Swedish government has assumed that risk and is buying all of our credits at fixed prices. And they're not doing that out of the goodness of their heart. Sure, they like the charisma that our project offers. They like to see the market aiding the poorest of the poor people in the world, but they also have a legal obligation to buy carbon credits, and that's why they're buying ours. Our inline water treatment systems work on as little as 5 psi. To give you an idea of what that is, we have about 50 psi coming out of the tap in the bathroom, so less than a tenth of that pressure is available in Rwanda. We have big gravel and sand filters that are produced entirely locally. We use almost all locally sourced materials. We've already deployed about half of our systems for about 2,000 people in Rwanda, half of our Phase 1 systems. Ultimately, we're putting out 400 systems for 336,000 people. And the systems can be sized for between 100 and 3,000 people a day. There's low-tech elements to this. We use gravel and sand and repurposed propane tanks and gravity and solar panels that are commonly installed by small-scale projects around the world. But we also have some high-tech elements. This is our UV system that has a custom-made computer in it that monitors pressure, flow rate, water quality, UV lamp status, and uses the cellular phone network to alert our technicians if a failure happens. So literally, if one of my colleagues was here, he has an iPhone app that he designed that he can turn on or off a water treatment system in Rwanda. And that's a little bit higher tech than Engineers Without Borders would do, that we used to do as Engineers Without Borders. But there's a specific reason for it. We're not doing high tech for the sake of high tech. We're doing high tech because we have a business obligation and motivation to ensure the uptime of these systems. If we want to make sure that we make money on these, that ensures the long-term maintenance of them, we want to make sure that they're operating nearly all the time. And so we're using engineering standard methods to ensure that these systems are working. We're already treating water for 2,000 people. That was made possible through a grant from the Global Water Challenge that we won because of our model, not in spite of it, but because of it. And we think that this model is both important and scalable primarily because we tie the revenue to the successful operation of the system. So if we put in one of our water treatment systems and we walk away from it, we don't make any money and the system doesn't work. If we maintain that system, or if we're taken over by some pretty hard-nosed businessmen, they're still going to take care of that system because that's where their paychecks are coming from. We do capacity building in these communities. We don't just parachute ourselves in and then leave and then wait 6 months for something to break and then show back up again, although we used to do it that way. now we're actually building a business in Rwanda. We're already employing about a dozen people. Ultimately, we'll be employing over 300 people in Rwanda who are trained and paid well to maintain these systems locally. There are a number of challenges with this. We're the first to earn carbon credits for the purification of drinking water, although, or at least we intend to be.